The largest single known piece of coral has been discovered by scientists on a research trip.
It'll be 16 acres. It will be the largest artificial reef in the world, and it will be the only barrier artificial
Series of stones in a perfect linear formation, despite seeming nondescript.
You know what? Down below that calm, deep blue water that looks so peaceful, the ocean is hiding a huge secret, a truth that mankind has tried real hard to forget. But now it's coming back strong, like a voice calling from way back in ancient times. There are 7 strange discoveries lying quiet on the ocean floor. They're not just old ruins worn down by time. They're living proof of the great flood talked about in the Bible. These things didn't happen by accident, and they're not some joke from nature. They're like the last traces of whole villages that got swallowed up by the water, silent witnesses to the worldwide disaster God sent to clean a sinful world. And here's what's really scary. These signs are showing up again right when the world feels more messed up than ever. Don't you feel it too? Like time is speeding up, like we're heading towards some invisible breaking point. I bet you've noticed wild weather, wars popping up everywhere, and morals going downhill fast. These things on the bottom of the sea are just one piece of a much bigger picture. God is speaking. On this journey, we're going to look at each discovery together. Every statue, road, village, ancient river, line them up with what the Bible says, dig into the science, and push past all the doubts people keep throwing up to hide the truth. When you put these 7 clues together, they don't just show us history that the ocean buried long ago. They shout a warning that shakes you to the core. The last days are a lot closer than we think. And if these ruins really are the past trying to talk to us, then the big question is, are we ready to listen? In times as crazy as these, this isn't just some old archaeology story. This is a reminder of God's coming judgment, a call to turn back to Him, and a wake-up call for every single one of us. So don't ignore even one of these signs, okay? Now, come on, let's go down to the bottom of the ocean together and face the truth He wants us to see. You ready? 1. They found a mysterious statue of God lying deep under the ocean, down in the Mediterranean Sea of the Mediterranean, where sunlight barely makes it through the dark blue water as a thin streak. A team of divers spotted it, a huge shape standing tall, covered in green algae and barnacles, quiet like it had been waiting for someone for hundreds of years. It's a bronze statue, almost 8 feet tall, both arms raised straight up to the sky like it's calling something from above. The divers said the moment they looked into those empty eyes, everything felt like it slowed down, and the ocean around them got way too still. Just hearing about it gives you goosebumps, doesn't it? The statue sits about 25 feet deep, right in the middle of the ruins of an old shipping route that was busy thousands of years ago. The broken stones all around it make you think this spot might have once been a holy place where sailors prayed, believing someone up high was watching over every trip they made. But what really creeps people out is the pose. Arms up, not like begging, more like giving an order. Down in that darkness, it makes anyone who sees the pictures wonder, is God calling something or warning us about what's coming? Then people started comparing it to descriptions in the Bible, and it got even stranger. Genesis 7:11 says, "In the 600th year of Noah's life, in the 2nd month, on the 17th day, all the fountains of the great deep burst open, and the windows of heaven were opened." Its action says, that verse feels like an echo from the past, talking about the moment God opened the sky and let the floodwaters loose. The statue's pose is exactly how you'd picture the one who can split the sea, open the heavens, and turn nature upside down. Do you think that's just a coincidence or a message sent across time? Some scientists first tried to calm everyone down, saying it's probably just a modern statue from a modern shipwreck, but that idea fell apart fast. The bronze is oxidized the old-fashioned way. It's got thick layers of growth that take centuries, The carving style isn't modern at all. And most important, no storm or accident could shape a perfect human figure with every fold of clothing so clear. If this isn't an ancient religious relic, then what is it? That statue stands there like a marker for a truth that got buried long ago. The Great Flood wasn't just a story. It really happened. And the ancient world really faced judgment. Maybe God letting it be found right now isn't an accident. In a time full of disasters, wild weather, and wars getting worse, this discovery feels like a strong whisper from above. Don't forget my power, and don't think mankind can keep escaping the results of sin forever. And here's the last question none of us can ignore. If this is the first sign pulled up from the deep, what's going to come up next? 2. A whole bunch of human-like statues lying under the sea like a whole village. Nobody saw it coming. After that first creepy find in the Mediterranean, what was waiting for us off Yonaguni, Japan, turned out to be way spookier. Over in Portofino, there's just one lonely statue reaching up toward the sky. But here, there's a whole village of them sitting perfectly still, about 82 feet down. So many that you'd swear if you turned around quick, one of them would open its eyes and look right at you. Picture it. In that quiet, deep blue water, hundreds of stone eyes watching every breath you take. Gives you chills, doesn't it? The Yonaguni area is already famous for being a mess. Rocks smashed by earthquakes, slammed by tsunamis plenty of times over the years. But right in the middle of all that chaos, a team of divers saw something nobody expected. Somewhere between 50 and 100 human statues, 5 to 10 feet tall, standing shoulder to shoulder like the people of a village frozen at the very last second of their lives. What's really weird is how alive their faces look. Some are holding kids, some are turning like they're trying to find a way out, some are looking straight up like they're waiting for help from heaven. One diver said when he got close, he almost felt like those stone people were breathing. Just imagination from the water pressure, you think? Or maybe some part of their souls is still stuck in the rock? It gets even scarier when you line this up with the Bible. Genesis 6 to 5 to 7 page, 12 inches, most Bibles. The Lord saw how great the wickedness of the human race had become on the earth. The Lord regretted that he had made human beings on the earth. These statues feel like the actual people who got swallowed up in God's anger during the Great Flood. Not just victims, but a reminder of what sin can do to a whole community. Don't those terrified stone faces match the warning in Scripture a little too well? Or is it past the point of calling it a coincidence? Of course, there are always skeptics. Some folks say they're just natural rock formations worn down by the sea, but then archaeologists and stone experts got involved. Their conclusion is pretty hard to argue with. The lines, the chisel marks, the sharp angles on the faces couldn't happen naturally, especially the eyes. No earthquake or wave could ever carve an expression that full of feeling. If nature can sculpt emotion like that, what's left for us humans? So the Yonaguni discovery is the clearest proof we've got so far that a real community once got drowned, turned to stone, and locked forever in their final moment. Those stone souls are still down there, like God's warning about what happens when people sink too deep into evil. If the flood really wiped out an ancient village once, then with everything crazy going on these days, doesn't it feel like that same warning is coming back louder and clearer than ever? 3. The strange ship that sailors whisper about floating on the Black Sea. Not every mystery is hidden down at the bottom of the ocean. Some just drift right on top of the water, quiet and a whole lot creepier. When Black Sea sailors started telling each other about an old, empty ship that floats around in the dark like a ghost and carries the spine-chilling name Noah's Ark, most folks figured it was just drunk at sea stories. But then, the reports kept piling up. Fuzzy radar blips showed the same thing, and a few crews came face to face with it on a dead calm sea. Suddenly, everybody was asking, what in the world is really out there floating in front of us? Have you ever thought history could come back with nothing more than one ship showing up under the moonlight? The Black Sea, off the coast of Bulgaria, is already famous for hundreds of ancient wrecks lying on the bottom. But this ship, it's different. It doesn't sit on the bottom. It drifts around with no direction, staying about half a mile from any other boat, like it wants to keep its distance on purpose. It shows up clearest on full moon nights, when the silver light covers everything and makes the line between real and unreal kind of blurry. Sailors say it's a long wooden hull, all beat up and full of holes, with broken pieces sticking out like old scars. The scary part? Even ripped apart like that, it never sinks. The torn sails are still up, like it's waiting for a wind only it can hear. Just picture it, a ship with a hole clean through the bottom floating for hours. That sound normal to you? What really throws the experts for a loop is the radar. Every time the ship appears, every nearby boat's radar goes haywire, lines jerking around like something invisible is yanking them. It's not weather, not modern boats, not anything people do. One old sailor put it this way: it doesn't drift like a ship, it drifts like a memory. And when you look at it next to the Bible, things get even more chilling. Genesis 8:4 says, "The ark came to rest on the mountains of Ararat." Noah's ark was the symbol of being saved after the great flood. But this ghost version floating in the Black Sea feels like the last shadow of that worldwide flood, like a quiet reminder that water once covered the whole earth and killed almost everybody, and that history could happen again. A warning, just drifting along right in front of us. Of course, people try to explain it away. Mass hallucination from fog, some old wreck that broke loose, fishermen pulling a prank. But the radar records, dozens of sailors from different countries telling the exact same story, and that ancient shape that no modern ship matches, it shoots every excuse full of holes. Nobody can explain why it won't sink, why it only comes out on full moon nights, or why it always stays the same distance from any boat that tries to get close. So this strange ship isn't just some empty wreck. It's a sign, a reminder of the great flood, and a warning about the final judgment God will bring on mankind if we keep walking down the road of sin. And sometimes, the scariest warnings come in the silence of an empty ship drifting across the sea under a quiet moon. 4. The strange village with a well and a church at the bottom of the sea. Out in the middle of the huge Mediterranean Sea, where folks always figured there was nothing but sand, rocks, and a few broken old things scattered around, some divers found something that left even the experts speechless. It wasn't just one little object, not a piece of wood or a lonely statue. It was a whole village. A village so perfectly preserved, it's almost creepy, sitting quiet on the seabed at Thonis Herakleion, like time just stopped the second the water rushed in. Imagine this: you're diving one day, and right in front of you, there's an old well, or a church standing straight up. It looks like the people who lived there just walked away a couple hours ago. The village sits about 30 feet down, all covered in seaweed and barnacles, so you know it's been down there not just hundreds, but probably thousands of years. The weirdest part? Everything is still in one piece, scary good shape. The walls are still standing tall, the corners aren't worn away like you'd expect. When the divers first touched bottom, they thought they were just looking at some odd rocks, but the deeper they went, the clearer it got. Streets, house foundations, even a well more than 10 feet deep that still looks perfect. Picture a well sitting under the ocean, still holding its deep, dark hole, like it's staring back up at a sky that got taken away. Not far away stands the wall of what sure looks like a church, about 20 feet high, with carvings so strange the experts just shrug and say, "We have no idea who built this or how." The designs seem to show angels, huge floods, and old symbols about Judgment Day. That can't be a coincidence. One diver stood there and said, "It felt like I was looking straight into the memory of a world that's gone." Then you open the Bible and everything lines up in a way that gives you chills. Genesis 7:19-20 says, "The water rose so high it covered the earth 15 cubits higher than the tallest mountains." If the flood really covered the mountains, then a village buried 30 feet under the sea isn't a fairy tale. It's proof. Of course, plenty of folks argue. They say earthquakes sank it, a tsunami wiped it out. Fine, but if it was just a natural disaster, Why is everything still so beautifully built? Why are the carvings still sharp? And here's the big one. Who builds a church on the bottom of the ocean in the first place? Every explanation against it seems to fall apart on its own. This isn't just some old dig, it's a wake-up call. It's evidence of a whole civilization that got washed away in the Great Flood, and a reminder that history can repeat itself any time. That village down there isn't just rocks and bricks. It's a message. A voice from way back saying, "Wake up. The last days might be closer than we think." 5. The Bimini Road found under the ocean, down in the deep blue Caribbean, where the sunlight barely makes fuzzy shadows on the sand. A team of divers ran into something nobody saw coming. A real road. Yes, an actual road. Sitting right there under the water. Sounds a little like the Atlantis story, doesn't it? I know, you're probably thinking, yeah, right. Hang on a minute. What they found wasn't just a bunch of random rocks. It was a carefully laid out structure, so neat and straight that it makes you stop and ask, who built this? And why is it sitting on the bottom of the ocean? The Bimini Road lies only about 18 feet deep, off North Bimini in the Bahamas, an area that's always been full of mysteries. It's shallow enough for sunlight to reach it, but deep enough that something really old could stay in pretty good shape for thousands of years. As the divers followed the stones, they saw the thing stretches almost half a mile. Every block looked like it was placed by hand, lined up straight, fitting together, on purpose. This wasn't Mother Nature tossing rocks around or waves piling up limestone. This was a real piece of work. If you're sitting there thinking, are we making too big a deal out of this? You're not the only one. Plenty of folks are skeptical. Some say it's just natural beach rock that cracked. Fair enough, but natural cracks don't line up like soldiers. Natural stone doesn't break itself into nice rectangles and lay them side by side like pavement. And here's the kicker. Geological studies have found tool marks, clean edges, cuts that waves can't make. Nature doesn't carve stone in right angles and modules like an architect would. When you look at that road, it's hard not to think of the Bible in Genesis 7:11. All the springs of the great deep burst forth, the ground splitting open, water swallowing everything, a whole world disappearing in the flood. And now here's a road buried under the sea, still in one piece, still daring us to explain it, like a quiet reminder that Noah's story might not just be a Sunday school lesson. The water really did cover the land, and this thing is proof. I get it. These kinds of discoveries can leave you curious and a little uneasy at the same time. You start wondering, could there really have been an advanced civilization that got wiped out by water? Was the flood that big? But when the clues keep adding up, perfectly straight stones, studies saying it's man-made, sitting in a place old writings talk about, the picture gets clearer. This isn't random. It isn't imagination. It isn't luck. The Bimini Road isn't just some odd thing under the sea. It's a warning, a memory the water tried to hide, now brought back to the surface in God's own way. Just like He once used a flood to wash away wickedness, He left signs so we wouldn't forget. When people turn away from Him, the earth itself can open up and swallow everything. So when you look at that sunken road, ask yourself, are we living in a time when the old warnings are showing up again? Could this be one of those gentle nudges to wake us up before history repeats itself? God never warns for no reason. That road didn't end up on the bottom of the ocean to be forgotten. It's there to remind us that time goes in circles and His righteousness never changes. 6. A river stretches strangely under the ocean floor. While everyone's eyes are still glued to the mysteries beneath the Caribbean Sea, a new discovery has popped up out of nowhere from the sky. Not from divers, not from old-school archaeology, but from satellites. And you won't believe this. Experts have spotted a river, yes, an actual river, deep under the Black Sea, near Turkey's Bosphorus Strait. Sounds impossible, right? I know you're raising an eyebrow, but stick with me, because this story is even wilder than you think. This river under the sea isn't just some vague ripples like ordinary rock grooves. It stretches for miles and is nearly 100 feet wide. with a riverbed, banks, and natural curves so clear it looks like fresh water flowed through it just yesterday. What's got the science world stunned is this. A structure like this could only form when this place was dry land. A peaceful ecosystem, full of life, once existed where there's now only cold, deep ocean. If you're wondering, are they sure it's a real river? Could it just be some bumpy ocean floor? You're asking the same question skeptics have. But here's the kicker. High-resolution scans show erosion patterns typical of freshwater flow, the kind of shapes that can't form underwater. Layers of sediment are stacked like an ancient river's deposits, not something waves could create. In other words, it's a real river, buried under the sea after some catastrophic event. And when you look at satellite maps, it's hard not to think of the Bible's words in Genesis 7:21-3, all flesh perished. A description of total destruction from the Great Flood, when water didn't just sweep away life but swallowed entire lands, turning them into new seas. This river under the ocean is physical proof that at some point in history, water rushed in and engulfed vast areas, leaving them as ocean floors today. Picture this: a river, an ecosystem, a land with trees, creatures, maybe even people living there, now completely gone under hundreds of feet of water. It feels like we're seeing traces of an old world wiped out, and it makes you wonder, what happened to turn it into an ocean? Why are we finding these clues now? Skeptics might keep saying, nature did it all. But nature can't make a river under the sea. A river has to exist before the sea. And the sea could only swallow land after a massive event, like what the Bible calls judgment. So, this discovery isn't just a geological wonder, it's a reminder. A scientific fact confirming the Great Flood wasn't just a Sunday school story for kids. It happened, it destroyed, and now, through modern tech, God's letting us see what He once did to warn humanity about the end times. You might think this is just another science tidbit, but when you piece it together with all the signs piling up, you start to see a much bigger picture. And maybe, just maybe, this is the moment we can't pretend we don't see it anymore. 7. Graves, with crosses scattered on the ocean floor. If the first 6 discoveries felt like random puzzle pieces dropping out of nowhere, this last one hits completely different. It's not the wow of science or the amazement of ancient buildings anymore. It's a heavy, quiet feeling, like you just stepped into the resting place of real people who lived, breathed, and believed in something holy. And you know what? A lot of divers say they feel like someone is watching them from below when their flashlight sweeps across those crosses. Gives you chills, doesn't it? Hold on. Let me tell the story straight. Then you decide if this feels like a warning from way back. Off the coast of Israel, at a place called Atlit Yam, archaeologists found dozens of graves sitting quietly, about 40 feet under the water. The shocking part isn't how many there are, it's the crosses, almost 5 feet tall, standing right at the head of each grave. It's like this used to be a real cemetery for a whole organized village that had faith and funeral rites. Now it's all silent down there, just witnesses to whatever disaster swallowed them. Picture it, tall crosses standing on the seabed, covered in green algae, swaying a little in the current, arms almost open like they're waiting for the last visitors. If you were there, what would you feel? Hair standing up on your neck? Sad? Or that weird sense you're looking at a secret mankind wasn't supposed to forget? Some folks doubt it and say these could be modern graves that sank in some accident. Problem is, the style of the crosses, the carving, the shape of the tombs, everything screams really ancient, older than anything clearly written down. 40 feet of water on top also proves this spot was dry land once, then got flooded a long, long time ago. No way it's something recent. So the new graves that just sank idea falls flat. This is an ancient cemetery the sea swallowed whole. And when you connect it to the Bible, it gets even creepier. Genesis 9:11 has God promising, "Never again will there be a flood to destroy the earth." But these graves under the ocean remind us of the time before that promise, the great flood that wiped everything out. The people in those graves might actually be victims of that very event. And now, as sea levels shift, or as our tech finally lets us see through the dark, God is letting us look at what was hidden. The first 6 finds were all rocks, ruins, science stuff. This one hits you in the heart. It doesn't just prove the flood happened. It reminds us real people, real families, real believers got swept away and left their crosses on the bottom of the sea, like a message for whoever came later. Are you wondering right now, why are all these clues popping up in our lifetime? That question alone feels like a warning. And maybe, through these cold graves out in the deep, God is trying to tell us our time isn't long. So there you go. We just went through all 7 discoveries that show God was right. Which one stuck with you the most? 7 discoveries. They seem scattered, lying in 7 different corners of the ocean. But when you put them together, they form a picture that'll give anybody chills. There's a statue of Jesus buried in the sand under the sea, a mysterious human figure, a ghost ship that appears and disappears, an ancient village deep under a blanket of sea moss, the perfectly straight Bimini Road, an old river quietly sitting on the bottom of the Black Sea, and finally, a graveyard of crosses covered in green, all like pieces of memory that the water swallowed long ago, and now, out of nowhere, they're popping back up in our time. You see it, don't you? These aren't just random clues anymore. This is a warning being written again in the language of stone, sand, and time. The scariest part? It's not the mystery. It's not how deep and dark the ocean is. It's how perfectly these things line up with the story in Genesis chapters 6 through 9, when a sinful world got wiped out by water. If you ever thought the Great Flood was just a symbol, just a metaphor, these 7 discoveries are like fingers pointing straight at the truth that it really happened. And it left wreckage scattered all over the planet. Don't you get the feeling everything is coming to light right on time? Like some unseen hand is opening a door to history so we can look again at something mankind tried real hard to forget. Take another look. The statue of Jesus down there. A reminder that he's the witness of every age. The sunken human figure. The mark of a whole people who vanished. The ghost ship. The story of folks who never came home. The old village under the water. The ruins of a city that once prospered. The carefully carved Bimini Road. Proof a great civilization got swallowed in a single day. That ancient river in the middle of the sea. Something that couldn't be there unless a worldwide catastrophe happened. And those cross graves, the hardest one. Real people really did lie down and die under the waves. You feel that frightening pattern yet? Lay all 7 pieces on the table, and the picture is unmistakable. A whole world swallowed, scrubbed clean, erased, exactly like Genesis 7:19-20 says. The waters rose greatly on the earth, 15 cubits higher than the highest mountains. The Bible isn't talking about some local flood. It's talking about something that covered the whole globe. And modern science, with sonar mapping, geological studies, confirming man-made structures, is accidentally backing up the very same thing. Isn't it something how the world keeps trying to deny it, but the evidence keeps bubbling up from the bottom of the sea? Then line it up with Genesis 6:11-1-3, where God says he's going to destroy the earth because wickedness filled it. And these 7 discoveries look like the final chapters of a book being turned back open. This isn't just archaeology or geology. This is buried history. History the ocean kept safe for thousands of years, and now, in this century, hands it back to us. Why now? Why not last century or next century? Ever feel like everything is happening just a little too on time? And when our own days bump up against Revelation 3:3, if you don't wake up, I will come like a thief. It all suddenly clicks together. Could God be using these relics to wake people up? Is he repeating an old lesson in a way nobody can ignore? These aren't just old artifacts. They're voices from Noah's day, echoing into ours. Don't make the same mistake we did. Be honest with yourself. Doesn't it feel like time is moving faster? Strange things happening one after another? Turn on the news, and every story feels off somehow? That's exactly how people felt right before Noah's flood, an invisible urgency they ignored until it was too late. Now that the picture from these 7 discoveries is clear, we can't call it coincidence anymore. This is a warning, orderly, deliberate, on purpose. And if the Great Flood really happened, the one lesson we better remember is this: nobody thought it was coming until the water was at their door. Maybe God is saying to our modern world the same thing he once said to Noah: get ready. And the last question, not to scare you, but to wake you up. If all this evidence is rising to the surface at the same time, how much time do we have left before that door closes again? 7 discoveries have just been revealed, from things happening in the sky to changes right here on Earth, from strange signs in nature to pieces of history that were hidden for so long. All of them are coming together to paint a picture that's clearer than ever before. These aren't just random events anymore. They're connected like one long thread, reminding us that the world is moving into the very time the Bible talked about thousands of years ago. Each discovery is like a gentle bell ringing, not to scare us, but to wake us up. When we look at these 7 pieces, we don't see the end coming. We hear a call. It's a kind but firm reminder that our lives need to get back to what really matters. While everything around us is shifting and the world changes day by day, the one thing that never moves is God's love and His plan for us. He doesn't use signs to frighten people. He uses them to wake up hearts that have been asleep. That's why we're invited to live wide awake spiritually. Pray every day. Keep a soft heart. Walk by faith instead of fear. When the world feels shaky, prayer is the anchor that holds our soul steady and helps us see the way through all the worry and fog. And when we put our trust in the Lord Jesus, hope becomes something real. You can feel it with every breath. But faith isn't just words. It has to show up in the way we love people. We're called to open our arms to folks who are struggling and give whatever help we can. A kind word, a meal, a little encouragement. Sometimes that's the very miracle God uses to touch someone's life. Loving others is the strongest way we can show the world what He looks like, especially in hard times like these. And today, as we finish looking at these 7 discoveries, I'd like to ask you to pause just for a second and write a short prayer, a thought, or something you've taken away in the comments below. Let that space become a place where we share faith, hope, and encouragement with each other. You never know. Your prayer today might be the answer someone else has been waiting for. If this video meant something to you, please hit like, share it, and subscribe so we can keep walking this road together. Every little click helps spread this message of waking up and loving others to more hearts. Thank you for giving your time, your trust, and your heart to this journey. May the Lord Jesus give you peace that goes beyond anything we can understand. Walk with you through every storm and keep hope burning bright inside you. Thanks for watching all the way to the end. God be with you.
Ai, meu Deus!
Hundreds of birds literally falling from the sky into a
Where's the world heading when nature and the sky all seem to change their tune at once? A raging flood sweeps people away in Piracicaba. Huge flames shoot up right next to a gas station in Taichung. Gray mud boils up in Tabean. Moths blanket Manitoba. Birds drop from the sky by the hundreds in Mexico. Strange lights fill the sky thick over Miami. A snowy mountain glows like a doorway. Clouds form haunting shapes. 10 events, scattered across different places, all happening around the same time, leaving one big question mark about what's coming soon. Do you think this is just one coincidence after another? Or is it a message coming through loud and clear? If you still hold on to faith, drop a prayer in the comments below as your way of showing you're still listening to the Lord every day. Amen. And now, so you don't have to wait long, let's get right into it. 1. Flood devastates Piracicaba. Water swallows the city. Floods hit Piracicaba hard. Water rose fast and swallowed the whole city. In just a short time, heavy rain poured down on the eastern part of São Paulo state. It pushed the Piracicaba River over its banks and turned streets into rushing rivers. We're seeing a familiar city thrown into emergency in only a few hours, with normal daily life completely cut off. Piracicaba has about 400,000 people. It sits along the river with the same name. It's both an industrial center and a key sugarcane farming area in Brazil. The place is used to heavy seasonal rains, but the drainage and riverbanks were only built for ordinary situations. When the water went far beyond what they could handle, all the protections failed quickly. Rain fell at about 2 inches in just 40 minutes, causing flash floods over a wide area. River water overflowed onto highways, trapping many cars and people for hours. Water rose several feet, flooding Avenida 31 de Marzo, one of the main roads in the city. Reports say one man got trapped under a concrete structure and drowned, while many nearby neighborhoods were cut off. Schools had to close. Hundreds of families were evacuated quickly. Crops and infrastructure suffered heavy damage. Weather experts say the extreme rain, combined with low land along the river, meant water couldn't drain in time. Local officials warned that more flooding could come since upstream levels are still high, and told people to stay away from riverside areas. In the middle of all this, the Bible comes to mind as something worth thinking about. Matthew 24:37-39 says, "As it was in the days of Noah, so it will be when the Son of Man comes. The flood came and took them all away." The words aren't describing just one event. They remind us how fragile life is when people ignore major warning signs. When it talks about seas roaring and rising, Luke 21:25 says, "On the earth, nations will be in anguish, because the sea will roar and surge violently." Scripture doesn't explain the physical causes, but puts these things in a bigger picture where nature serves as a wake-up call. Many folks say this is simply due to climate change or tropical weather patterns, something science can explain and we can reduce with better infrastructure. That view has merit, but it doesn't change the reality that extreme events are coming more often and affecting larger areas. So, what happened in Piracicaba isn't just another disaster report. When the water recedes, the city is left with mud-covered streets and big questions about what lies ahead. From that flood, the story shifts to something even more intense. Fire. 2. Judgment fire explodes in Taichung. Flames spread fast, threatening to swallow the whole area. A fire suddenly broke out with a huge explosion ripping through the air in broad daylight in Taichung. In just a moment, flames rolled up from a furniture and bedding store. The bright red fire reflecting across the Chongde Road, Tianjin Road intersection in Beitun district. It created a shocking scene that threw the whole area into panic. Taichung is one of Taiwan's biggest cities, with about 2.8 million people. Beitun is a busy urban district where homes, shops, and gas stations are packed close together. When a fire starts in a spot like that, we know that just a few minutes' delay could let things get completely out of control. The fire started in the furniture and bedding shop, full of stuff that burns easily, and it spread fast. Thick black smoke rose high for miles, covering the neighborhood sky and forcing authorities to block off the roads. Flames jumped to at least 8 nearby stores. The heat was so intense that firefighters had to pour everything they had into stopping the blaze from reaching the gas station just a short distance away. News reports say the fire caused no injuries to people, but the property damage was huge. Many businesses were totally destroyed. Firefighters worked until nearly noon to finally get the flames under control. That shows just how serious and dangerous this incident really was. In the middle of the fire and smoke, the Bible speaks like a warning. Revelation 8-7 says, "The first angel sounded his trumpet, And there came hail and fire mixed with blood, and it was hurled down on the earth. A third of the earth was burned up. The picture of fire coming down isn't just about one fire. It's a reminder of destruction when people face powers beyond their control. When talking about the last days, 2 Peter 3:10 stresses, "The day of the Lord will come like a thief. The heavens will disappear with a roar. The elements will be destroyed by fire." Here, fire isn't only a physical thing, it's a symbol of cleansing and judgment, something many people can't just ignore with what's happening now. Experts think the cause was most likely an electrical short or an accident during work, combined with all the flammable materials and the tight-packed buildings. They warn that fires like this in cities will get worse and worse if we don't do a better job with fire safety, especially near fuel stations. But when flames burst out in a modern city, right next to a gas station, and only stopped at the last second, a lot of folks see it as a sign we can't brush off. Genesis 19:24 records, "Then the Lord rained down burning sulfur on Sodom and Gomorrah from the Lord out of the heavens." Quote, Bible history puts fire in the role of a final wake-up call. The fire in Taichung is out now, but the smoke still hangs in the air like a reminder. When the earth and waters have shaken, and fire has broken out in the city, what will be the next sign in the sky? And will that strange light shock us even more? 3. Hundreds of strange lights shooting up from the horizon into the mysterious night sky. As night falls, the sky behind those tall buildings suddenly lights up with hundreds of little twinkling spots, all moving together from the horizon way up high. No real noise, no usual flight paths, just these points of light climbing higher and then fanning out like they're scaling the dark sky. Are you looking at some rare natural event or a sign that's never been fully figured out? The setting makes it even fuzzier. Big cities all lit up, streets still busy, but these lights don't seem part of the everyday hustle. They pop up over the horizon, rise above the rooftops, and take over the sky like a layer of man-made stars. Lots of folks stop to film it. Others just stand there staring quietly, because nobody's sure what they're seeing. These lights move fast, changing height and direction in no time, not like regular planes with their steady blinking lights. Some videos show them bunching up, then splitting off, sometimes lining up in a chain, other times scattering like drifting glows. It's got this mix of awe and unease, since it doesn't look like your typical light show. Matthew 24:29-30 talks about sky changes. Right after those tough days, the sun will go dark, the moon won't shine, stars will fall from the sky, and the powers up there will shake. Then the sign of the Son of Man will show up in the heavens. Those old words make folks connect the dots when they see these odd lights stirring up the modern night. Debates kick off almost right away. One side says it's just drones, maybe from some tech test or a big light display. Others are more cautious, guessing at military gear being tried out and worries about hidden conflicts creep in. Some even think it's the chosen ones being lifted up in a key moment of history as the old ways are about to shift. Luke 21:11 mentions terrifying things and great signs from heaven, more like a hint than a final word. Some go further, saying these are angels wrapping up their missions and heading back, leaving behind a world wondering what it missed. Each take mirrors different beliefs, fears, and hopes in that same moment. Joel 2:30 adds to the picture, "I will show wonders in the heavens and on the earth, blood and fire and billows of smoke," even without one clear answer. These lights have done something obvious, made people look up and question themselves. What do you think is the most sensible explanation for this? And what might come next now that the sky's starting to change? 4. A black pillar standing straight up in the blue sky. Right in the middle of a clear blue sky, something really strange showed up and stopped a lot of people in their tracks. A long, thin black pillar standing perfectly straight, like it was nailed right there in the air. It didn't lean, it didn't fade, it didn't move at all, just stayed frozen above the bright clouds, so steady It almost felt like reality was playing tricks on you. This happened in broad daylight, so clear you couldn't brush it off as some quick illusion. Everything around was completely calm. No storm, no spreading smoke or fire, just that black pillar stuck down into the blue sky like a sharp cut. Some folks reported not just one, but two thin pillar shapes standing side by side, spaced apart just right, which made it feel even more eerie because of the odd symmetry. What would you think if you saw something holding perfectly still in a place that's supposed to always be moving? The pictures spread fast on social media, bringing along this hard-to-name, uneasy feeling. Unlike normal smoke trails that thin out pretty quick, this black pillar kept its exact shape for a long time. Sharp edges, dark color, almost like it had real depth. A lot of people said they felt watched when they looked up, even though the sky stayed bright and peaceful like always. Matthew 24-29 talks about changes in the sky. Right after those days of trouble, the sun will go dark, the moon won't give light, stars will fall from the sky, and the powers of the heavens will be shaken. When folks put this steady black pillar up against that verse, many saw it as more of a sign than just some random thing. Revelation 6 goes deeper with descriptions of heaven and earth shaking. The sky was rolled up like a scroll, and every mountain and island was moved from its place. In that view, the black pillar isn't just an object, it's a marker, a line dividing the normal order we know from whatever's about to get turned upside down. From a science side, experts came up with several ideas. It could be a contrail trail, twisted by light and moisture, a thin smoke column rising straight, then held in place by a stable air layer, or some rare cloud formation. These explanations come from weather data and physics, pointing out that nature can sometimes fool our eyes. No matter which explanation you go with, that uneasy feeling hangs around because the sky doesn't just stop every day to show something that challenges how we usually see things. The black pillar will fade away eventually, but when it's gone, in another part of the United States, strange lights start showing up and spreading, like the sky is sending more signals we haven't quite figured out yet. 5. A bright streak like a meteor full of wonder crossing the sky. A brilliant streak of light tore across the purple evening sky over Miami, racing fast, then breaking apart into a shimmering cloud of dust hanging high up. That one moment was enough to explain why the video spread like wildfire in just a few hours. The beach city, so used to city lights and airplanes, suddenly had something way outside the everyday view, and it hit people right in the eyes. Miami sits right in the middle of a busy web of airports, with commercial flights mixing with military activity offshore, so the sky here is always full of action. But this streak had a strange path, speeding up suddenly, then breaking into glowing bits, nothing like the smooth trails folks usually see. We looked up and realized our familiar sky looked different this time. The video shows the light moving at an angle, leaving a short, glowing tail before splitting into lots of tiny points like stardust. Stats from skywatching sites say reports like this in the Florida area hit the highest number ever recorded, according to news outlets. The timing and how many people saw it made the whole thing impossible to ignore. Matthew 24-29 came up a lot when people matched it to the picture. Right after those days of trouble, the sun will go dark, the moon won't give light, stars will fall from the sky, and the powers in the heavens will be shaken. In that light, this streak breaking into dust feels like a hint of bigger changes happening overhead for all of us. Revelation 12:1 adds more. A great sign appeared in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, with the moon under her feet, and on her head a crown of 12 stars. For many, those bright spots over Miami seem like small pieces of a much bigger picture, where the sky keeps showing signs that go beyond normal logic. Online folks quickly split into different camps. Some said it was a big drone or test aircraft, pointing to Miami's sensitive location. Others leaned toward a small meteor burning up in the atmosphere, though the path and breakup made that hard to buy. A few called it a fake video, while others saw deeper spiritual meaning, taking the light as a signal for special times. From a neutral view, each idea has its own facts, and there's still no clear answer everyone agrees on. What stands out is how often it's happening and how much attention it's getting. It shows the sky is becoming the center of what we're all watching together. We're standing right on the line between scientific explanations and spiritual feelings, where every look carries its own belief. The bright streak faded, the glowing dust dimmed too, but the echo of it still hangs in people's minds. As Miami's purple light went back to normal, somewhere else, above huge white clouds, a dark shape started to appear, opening the next chapter in this series of signs in the sky. 6. A dark shadow hanging over the bright white clouds. In a clear blue sky, a dark shape suddenly appears on a huge mass of pure white cloud, just hanging there as if held by some invisible force. That moment hits your eyes hard. Your breathing slows, and you can't look away, like the sky just opened some unusual door. When the camera zooms in, the shape gets clearer. A figure floating in the air, head glowing like a soft halo, arms spread wide to each side. The light is gentle but deep, reflecting off the slowly moving clouds, giving a feeling that's both sacred and mysterious. It leaves you standing there trembling in a way that's hard to put into words. The background clouds are thick and bright, the sky around them strangely calm, making the center figure stand out even more. A lot of people, when they look at the picture again, notice the body's proportions, the outstretched arms, and the light around the head. It strongly brings to mind familiar images from faith, where protection and an invitation are shown through light. Revelation 1-7 often comes up when people compare this moment. Look, he is coming with the clouds, and every eye will see him, even those who pierced him. In that passage, the figure on the cloud feels like a gentle key, opening up a way of seeing beyond the ordinary sky. Matthew 24-30 adds more light to the meaning. Then the sign of the Son of Man will appear in heaven, and they will see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. When you put it next to this image of arms spread among white clouds, many feel it's not just some random shape. It's a symbol of a majestic, merciful presence. Acts 1-9-11 tells about the moment Jesus ascended into a cloud, leaving the promise of his return. The similarity in the cloud setting and eyes looking up makes this Bible passage a key to understanding, placing the picture right into a familiar pattern of faith. On the other side, scientists point to pareidolia, the way our brains see familiar shapes in random cloud patterns, or possible photo editing, lighting angles, and contrast creating an illusion. Those explanations put the event into the frame of physics and psychology, giving a needed balance to the strong feelings. Even so, the real weight of the moment comes down to what most people feel, an image powerful enough to wake up sleeping faith. The figure with arms open on white clouds isn't just a picture, it's a reminder of protection and hope in troubled times. As that glowing light slowly fades into the moving clouds, far off on the horizon, the ground starts shaking with other signs, as if nature and heaven are speaking one after the other. 7. Mud volcano erupting at Taban Wildlife Reserve. Deep in the Borneo jungle, the ground at Taban Wildlife Reserve suddenly came alive. A mud volcano kicked into high gear, thick gray mud bubbling and spilling out non-stop, like somebody just drilled a hole right through the earth. The sight hits you hard, and when you stand there facing that living flow of mud, you realize the power buried under our feet has never really been gentle. Taban Wildlife Reserve sits near Lahad Datu in Sabah, Malaysia. It covers about 122,500 hectares and is known as one of the richest wildlife sanctuaries in Southeast Asia. This is home to Borneo pygmy elephants, rhinos, countless birds, and forest animals. It's also one of the few places where active mud volcanoes sit right in the middle of untouched primary rainforest. Right at the spot, thick, mineral-rich gray mud pours up from the vent, making heavy, bubbling bursts with a steady glug-glug sound. You can smell the minerals in the air. Hot, steamy mud spreads across the forest floor. No red flames, but the force feels just as strong as any volcano, leaving you amazed and a little uneasy at the same time. From the viewing tower, visitors watch the mineral-rich mud build up into natural salt licks that draw all kinds of wild animals to come lick the minerals. Life and destruction exist side by side in the same view. The whole ecosystem gets fed by the very stuff bursting out of the shaking ground. People often bring up Joel 2:30 when they see something like this. I will show wonders in the heavens and on the earth, blood and fire and columns of smoke. Even though there's no black smoke or burning flames, these gray bubbling mud columns still feel like a sign coming from deep down, a strange warning delivered in an unpredictable way. Revelation 8-8-9 brings an even stronger picture to mind. Something like a huge mountain, all ablaze, was thrown into the sea. When you put that next to the Deepen mud volcano, a lot of folks think of the earth revealing its own hidden power, almost like a reminder that the calm surface we walk on is only temporary. Geologists say this is just a natural event. Underground gases and pressure push the mineral mud up to the surface. Deepen has long been known for its cyclic mud volcanoes, and the process actually helps supply minerals that support the surrounding forest ecosystem. Still, when you look at everything happening around the world right now, the Deepen mud volcano doesn't feel like just another isolated geology thing. The signal from underground brings a sense of warning that even the most familiar foundation of our world is starting to stir and speak up. The mud slowly cools, the flow quiets down, and the jungle looks peaceful again on the outside. But deep in that ecosystem, another imbalance is quietly taking shape. Swarms of insects are showing up in unusual numbers, hinting at the next chapter that might leave anyone who sees it with chills down their spine. 8. Swarms of moths take over Manitoba at night. Manitoba got hit with something really shocking. Streetlights, porch lights, car headlights, all covered in moths. Layers of wings swirling around, making thick clouds. Just step outside, and your face brushes against cold wings and tiny powder. You realize the lights are drawing in this whole invasion. This is happening across many neighborhoods in Manitoba, Canada. Moths show up every year, but this time the numbers are huge. Reports say it's a big outbreak of spongy moth, an invasive species that strips leaves off trees, leaves thick egg masses on trunks and fences, turning normal views into something eerie. At night, you hear the constant fluttering of wings rubbing together like a low hum. Moths spin around every light source, pulled in like magnets. So many that even when people brush them off with their hands, more keep landing. It feels strange and a bit creepy, like you're in a horror movie directed by nature. People often think of Revelation 9 when they see this, describing a plague like locusts covering the earth. Out of the smoke, locusts came down on the earth and were given power, with moths blanketing the lights and clinging to trees. A lot of folks see it as more than just coincidence. It feels like a sign. Hosea 4-3 adds to that picture. That is why the land dries up, and all who live in it waste away. The beasts of the field, the birds in the sky, and the fish in the sea are swept away. The moth takeover ties into dying forests, which then hurts birds and the local ecosystem. From a science side, ecologists say it's part of the moth's natural cycle, plus the spread of this invasive bug. Spongy moths boom when weather is good, predators are few, and city lights accidentally make them gather even more. Online, folks are arguing hard. Some say it's just a bug thing we can handle with forest management and pheromone traps. Others feel it's a real sign that nature's balance is way off when insects explode like this, beyond what anyone remembers. videos are spreading fast, showing lights disappearing behind moving wings. Looking at recent weird weather and nature changes, many see this moth swarm in Manitoba as another clue that the environment is slipping out of its usual groove. When bugs take over the lights, it makes people think again about where we fit in a changing world. The moths will thin out after their cycle, and the street lights will shine clear again on those cold roads. But right as the dark wings fade, up in the Manitoba sky, another strange thing starts. Birds suddenly diving to the ground, opening a new chapter that's even harder to explain. 9. A flock of birds falling freely from the sky, crashing to the ground in Mexico. The sky over northern Mexico suddenly showed something shocking. In the middle of the day, hundreds of yellow-headed blackbirds were flying when they all dove straight down to the earth at the same time. When you see this, what do you think just hit the whole flock? The video shows the birds flying in their usual migration pattern in Chihuahua State. Then, in one broken moment, it all changed. Whole groups of them dropped like stones, slamming into the road and the fields. Some managed to lift their heads and fly up again, but many just lay there still. The sky was clear, with thin clouds, no sign of extreme weather. This happened right on their winter migration route. Yellow-headed blackbirds normally fly in big flocks and react very fast to anything around them. But here, the movement was perfectly in sync, and they fell almost straight down. It felt like some invisible force broke their order in the air. Hosea 4:3 comes up like a serious charge. That is why the land is in mourning, and everyone living there wastes away, the wild animals, the birds in the sky, and even the fish in the sea are taken away. These words put the bird's death into a bigger picture. Nature dying along with human morals. Some researchers suggest a predator bird showed up, scaring the flock into a mass dive. Other ideas point to pollution, a sudden cold snap, or poison gas in the air. Those explanations sound reasonable, but none of them fully covers how perfectly timed and how hard the fall was. Matthew 24-28 gets brought up as a second strong warning. Wherever there is a dead body, there the vultures will gather. When death shows up, it brings other clear, cold signs along with it. This Bible verse isn't really about birds. It's about the rule of decay. Those birds dropping weren't just some biology accident. They show how fragile life is when bigger changes come that we don't fully understand. A whole flock can break apart in just a few seconds, and the natural order can do the same when its foundations get worn away. If we call this just an odd incident, the question still hangs there. Why are similar things happening more often in more places? Do you see a chain of signals connecting one after another, from the sky down to the ground? The flock is lying on Mexican soil now, but the story isn't over. Up in the snow-covered mountains, strange lights are starting to appear, and what comes next might go far beyond what we've just seen. 10. Bright, mysterious light high up on the snowy mountain. A bright beam of light appeared right between the snowy peaks, just hanging there still in the middle of all that white, like it was floating in place. Do you think it's just some light, or is it a message starting to open up? The story starts with a young guy snowboarding way up in the high mountains, where snow covers every slope and there's no sign of anything man-made around. While he stopped to take a break, he spotted a strange glow showing up between two peaks. The light didn't spread out like the sun, and it wasn't scattered and shiny like snow and ice usually reflect. It stayed focused in a clear shape, with warm colors that really stood out against the cold background. The video, shot on a phone, shows the beam staying perfectly still for many seconds. No clouds blocking it, no obvious source shining it. The snow crystals all around stayed pure white, only that one spot was giving off its own light, like it was glowing from inside. The sight makes you think of a doorway opening between two worlds, where people can only stand back and watch from far away. Matthew 24-30 gets brought up as a key verse. Then will appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, And then all the peoples of the earth will mourn when they see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven, with power and great glory. That light on the snowy mountain asks the question straight out: could the sky be starting to speak for itself? A lot of people say, no, it's just a natural optical thing called a subsun, sunlight reflecting through ice crystals to make a column of light. That explanation comes from atmospheric science and has been seen in polar areas before. But in this video, the angle, the colors, and the shape don't quite match the usual examples, so the debate isn't settled yet. Revelation 21 opens up something deeper. The city does not need the sun or the moon to shine on it, for the glory of God gives it light. When light no longer depends on the usual sources, its meaning goes beyond physics and touches the promise of a whole new order. What's really worth noticing is that this happened after a whole string of unusual signs that came before, on the ground and in the sky. They're not separate, they form a chain, each one pushing people's awareness closer to the final line. The light up on the peak eventually faded away, but the question is still hanging there. As nature keeps changing the way it shows itself, people have to face their own choices. These 10 events have come together like a summary you can't ignore. Things written down long ago are now starting to take shape in real life. This isn't the time to just stand by and watch anymore. Waking up, turning back, and getting ready is the only thing left to do before the final curtain gets pulled back. Here are the 10 signs that passed before our eyes one by one, like scattered puzzle pieces. But when you put them together, they form a picture that no longer looks random. From skies shaking, ground trembling, animals in chaos, to strange lights appearing on high mountains, everything carries the same uneasy rhythm. It's not senseless fear. It's more like waking up, the feeling you get when you realize you're standing at a boundary bigger than anything you've known before. Matthew 24:6-8 puts it plainly. You will hear of wars and rumors of wars. Nation will rise against nation. There will be famines and earthquakes in various places. All these are the beginning of birth pains. Looking back at those 10 signs we've talked about, the match is striking, not to scare us, but to help us see that history is moving very quickly now. Those events don't stand alone. They weave right into the Bible's warnings about a world slowly falling out of balance. Hosea 4:3 says it clearly. Because of this, the land dries up, and all who live in it waste away. The beasts of the field, the birds in the sky, and the fish in the sea are swept away. The Tam. When nature reacts so violently, it's not just an environmental problem. It's a reminder of the broken relationship between people and their Creator. In the middle of that picture, what's most important isn't guessing dates or finding explanations to calm ourselves down. It's the attitude of our heart. Waking up doesn't come from fear. It comes from turning back. Prayer isn't escaping reality. It's putting the center of our life back where it belongs, with the one who holds authority over every shaking thing. When our heart humbles itself, that's when faith finally has room to grow. Revelation 3:20 comes like a patient whisper. Behold, I stand at the door and knock. Unquote. If anyone hears my voice and opens the door, I will come in and eat with that person. In all the noise of the world, the door of the heart is still the place each of us decides for ourselves. No one is forced, but whoever listens will find a peace that doesn't depend on circumstances. If these thoughts touch your heart, feel free to leave a short prayer or a simple, honest feeling right below as a little marker for your own inner journey. And if you think this message should reach more people, please help share it so no one misses that quiet call. Finally, thank you to everyone who's walked along with this. May grace and peace be with us and with every family in every situation. Amen.
Has lit up the early morning sky, caught on camera in Perth and right across WA.
actually near, meaning end of the world.
What is this?
What's going on with this world? And why are all these strange signs coming one right after another? When nature keeps breaking what people used to think was normal, the worry about tomorrow doesn't feel so far away anymore. Do you really believe it's all just random? Or is something bigger trying to tell us something? Everywhere you look, strange things that are hard to explain are happening all at once. Animals showing up where they shouldn't, the sky lighting up in weird ways, the ground cracking open, fire falling from the sky, deserts suddenly changing. None of it comes alone. They're lining up like a series of warnings, making people stop and think, will you just ignore it or face it? And even in all this confusion, the story isn't finished yet. There's more waiting ahead. If you have a prayer in your heart toward God, leave one in the comments below, like a quiet statement of faith right now. Amen. Now come along with me as we take a closer look at each of these signs, like pieces coming together to complete a picture called the last days. 1. Millions of silkworms pouring out of the deep forest? A hidden biological disaster? In a thick forest in China, the ground suddenly turned a milky white. It wasn't fog or mushrooms. It was countless tiny creatures crawling over every tree trunk, rock crevice, and path. This wasn't from any farm or controlled breeding area. It showed up right in the middle of wild nature, where that kind of creature shouldn't even be able to survive. Just picture standing there in front of it. You'd feel the shock spreading fast. From the first reports, it was a huge group of silkworms, gathering in thick patches and moving around in a chaotic mass like one big living thing. What confused people was this: there were no mulberry trees nearby, no signs of anyone releasing them, and none of the usual conditions they need to live. These little creatures that depend totally on people suddenly appeared deep in the forest, breaking everything we thought we knew about their life cycle. Bombyx mori, the domestic silkworm, has been tamed by humans for thousands of years. They lost the ability to fly and can hardly survive on their own in the wild. Scientists long believed any wild populations died out ages ago, so seeing such a massive number, living, breeding, and gathering in one spot, made many experts admit something doesn't add up. Luke 21:11 talks about terrifying signs appearing in the world, and it says clearly, there will be great signs from heaven. The incident was quickly reported to wildlife protection groups, but official answers stayed pretty vague. Some experts suggested maybe a swarm escaped from a nearby farm because of heavy rain or environmental changes. But that idea doesn't hold up well when you consider the distance, the rough terrain, and how short a time silkworms can live outside controlled conditions. Matthew 24:7 speaks of a time when nature gets thrown into disorder, and it says plainly, there will be great earthquakes in various places, and famines and pestilences. When a weak, totally dependent species like this shows up in overwhelming numbers deep in the forest, it's hard not to feel uneasy. Even as science tries to piece the facts together, the big picture still has gaps. This might just be a rare event, or it could be the first signal that the usual order is starting to break down. And if even the most fragile creatures aren't following the old rules anymore, what might be quietly waiting behind the next signs? 2. Eerie flashing light. Behind the abandoned building, fire from heaven, or a sign from hell? The light didn't explode, didn't drop down, and didn't make any noise. It just quietly showed up behind an abandoned building in California, hanging in the night sky like a glowing slit. For a few short seconds, the sky changed color. The air seemed to freeze, and the only question was, what in the world did we just see? According to the video a family recorded, the light shifted through different shades. Deep red one moment, cold blue the next, then a dull yellowish glow. It didn't move like anything normal, didn't blink like a regular light, and didn't fade out like a flare. It just hung there behind the broken concrete, making the already creepy, deserted place feel even more uneasy and hard to explain. California has seen plenty of reports about strange lights over the years, from tech tests to rare sky events. But what makes this one different is the complete silence and exactly where it appeared. No sirens, no official statement, no sign of anything left behind the next morning. In that moment, all we could